Hey, everybody. Thank you again for watching the Let's Talk podcast. Today's guest is Jacob Howard. A little bit about this guy from my angle. I try to start all the podcasts out kind of giving my perspective. So, Jacob's somebody that I've been watching for a couple of years now. It all started a while ago when I saw a lot of his, started posting some drone footage on LinkedIn. Um, and I remember him and several others tagging Dude Perfect, which we'll talk about as well during this podcast. Um, uh, so really excited to have him here. Just like I said, somebody I've been watching, kind of from afar. We've shared some messages together. Reached out and glad that he decided to come onto the podcast. Jake, thanks for coming, man. Jacob? What's best?
Usually I go Jacob.
Jacob, that's fine. That works. Jacob, thank you so much for coming on. Um, I like to start out the podcast kind of having the guests do kind of a 30,000-foot introductory of themselves, not quite a professional introductory, but really who they are, what makes them who they are as well. So the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Glad to be here, Travis. I live in Utah. I have a wife and two kids. They are my everything. I know everybody says that, but they really are. They're also the best kids in the world. So, that's definitely a fact. And my wife is obviously the best as well. So that kind of encapsulates a lot of my life right there. It's kind of why I do everything is for my family.
Nothing wrong with that.
And everything. Yeah. I'm a Christian, and I was raised actually with 12 siblings.
Wow.
I was raised in a big family in North Idaho. I will say I've kind of realized lately that that influence has kind of started wearing off a little bit as I'm getting closer to 30 years old, which is crazy to say, but it's true. But before that, I mean, definitely being raised with 12 siblings and stuff in North Idaho, out in the country, 45 minutes from the nearest town. That definitely impacted my life a lot and kind of decided like where I was going in life. So yeah,
I love that.
That's kind of 30 foot.
So with that big of a family, more brothers or more sisters?
More brothers.
Okay.
I like to say it's even because it's 3 girls, 10 boys. So I like to say that's even. Yeah, the girls made it even. That's for sure.
I love that. Yeah. So that's great. Yep. No, I'm right there with you. And a wife and two kids myself. What are the ages?
7 and 4. Boy
7
and
and
girl.
4. Awesome. I've got a 13 and an 8-year-old, and I get it. I get it, man. Girls can be a handful. So I understand you saying that your guys' ratio was pretty even.
Yes, it was for sure. So the girls definitely got spoiled too. So it worked out.
Yeah. Well, and that and not being a father, I do the same thing with my 2 girls. Like,
yep.
Man, they can annoy the heck out of me, but gosh darn it, they pretty much they've got their dad wrapped around their finger.
Yep. Exactly.
Never thought I would ever feel something so rewarding as becoming a father, but being able to be there to see my kids come into this world and take their first breaths. Like it's being a father. I hear a lot of people say, I don't know if kids are for me, but I being a father, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. So
yeah,
I love that. So
Yeah.
you and your wife, how long have you guys been together?
We've known each other for about 10 years. We've been married for 8.
Okay.
We actually, it's a funny story because I was homeschooled. So I like to tell people, I was homeschooled. That's actually where I met my wife. And then I leave it at that because it's true. It's true. We did online homeschooling. So I lived in North Idaho. She lived in Boise.
Okay.
And that's where we met, was on our online school. This is like 2013 or whatever, when we met. So, or even earlier than that, I can't even remember. So like we're talking like before even online dating was a thing, or it started to become a thing, and like
I bet you more back then. You got even more enjoyment telling people that you met on in homeschool. That's great.
Yep, it was great for sure.
I love that. Awesome. So, typical lately, I've been asking guests, what's the weather been like in the morning? How cold's it been for you guys?
This morning it's trash day today, so I went out early this morning to get all the trash out, and oh my goodness, it was so cold, so cold. I mean, I'm guessing I didn't look at the temperature, but it had to be like 15
Oh,
or even colder. So
now that's
it's
not, it said it was I think it was 18 this morning, but it said it felt like 5. We had some
yeah,
pretty wicked wind coming in. So
yeah,
I love that. You know,
it was cold.
you did say that you're Christian, so were you, myself, I kind of was just, I was just always in the church. My parents just always
Mhm,
attended. I always wanted to be at church. So, that's kind of, and I never had any like big, I don't know, come to God moments. I've kind of always
mhm.
just been there. So, yeah, if you don't mind, talk about your faith a little bit. Have you
Yeah,
always grown up in the church? Have you, go ahead, just
yeah.
give us a little color to that.
Yeah, yeah. So my family, we were all raised very conservatively, all Christian and stuff. So yeah, so that's kind of just how we grew up, what we learned and stuff. And when I was young, I took it very much into my own hands. I read the stories on how people just grew up with it, and that's just kind of what they accepted. And then later on, they're like, ah, no, I don't know, whatever. So I very much took it into my own hands. Actually, when I was 14. I somehow convinced, I don't know how, but I somehow convinced my parents to let me run a website actually. And I started writing Christian articles on this website, and I wrote thousands,
Oh, that's
thousands and
awesome.
thousands. And to this day, that website has actually gotten 250,000 views over the years.
Good for you, man. That's
So
awesome.
yeah, and like I won't even recommend the site now because I mean I wrote them when I was a teenager. They're so bad,
Oh yeah,
but
the things that I wrote as a teen, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I wish I could
yeah,
rewrite all that, with the knowledge and the experience I have now. But that's a good thing about about learning. You don't learn until you finally actually do something.
exactly, exactly. And I will say, theologically, most of my stuff was sound. I just didn't write it very well.
There you go. Yeah,
So,
bingo. I love that. Now that you've given the audience a little bit, kind of who you are, from a far stance, personally, um, what is it you do? You talk about your business a little bit. Maybe talk about the history leading up to where you are now. I have if I sent you a few questions, if we can, we'll touch on that as well. If you start talking, I may interject and you just kind of have you elaborate on something. So,
mhm.
kind of give us the history of how you got to do what you're doing now.
Yeah. So yeah, I do indoor drone light shows. We're one of the only ones in the entire world that do it. And every time I tell people, they're like, "Wait, say that again," because so it's indoor drone light shows. So just like the outdoor drone shows you've seen, but we do them indoor. So and for those who are watching, you can actually see a little photo in the back here during Dude Perfect. We did a football being kicked through a field goal, all on their stage. I mean, we're talking in a 30-foot ceiling, about 20 feet deep and 40 feet wide. And we flew 60 drones and performed a show in front of, every day, 10,000 or more people. So it was just absolutely crazy. But I know we'll jump into that a little bit more. I get excited about the whole Dude Perfect thing. But, but yeah, so back in basically my drone journey kind of started in 2016. My first job was at Walmart, and I showed a lot of good work ethic. That's part of how I was raised, is to work very very hard no matter what, no matter who you're working for. So I showed a very good work ethic. They kept promoting me kind of faster than I could do the job. And it was getting pretty overwhelming. And I remember it was actually a Black Friday. We were setting up for Black Friday. It was my first one as a manager, and the Phantom 3 standard drone had just come out. And this is right at the cusp of when drones started to become mainstream. This was the
Okay.
drone that kind of pushed it into it. And I remember looking at it and I go, that would be awesome for me to go film, because I'm in North Idaho. It's like everything is film worthy. I'm like,
Hmm.
go film. And then what I wanted to do actually is I wanted to put dragons, animate dragons into the flights. Like that was my goal.
Okay.
And so I somehow once again convinced my wife and my own and myself that this was a good idea to buy this like $800 drone. And so that's kind of started my drone fascination. I became just obsessed with it immediately.
Awesome.
I accidentally took off in our apartment, almost chopped my hands off. First time I flew it outside, I flew it into a tree and then a snowbank. And so, yeah, I've lost many drones over the years. And that kind of started my interest in that. And I loved it so much, like seeing videos and editing the videos and posting them and just like telling a story, that I actually started getting into video work then. And so then drones actually became kind of the secondary. I was using drones and on the ground cameras to go out and get videos and stuff. I started working with some celebrities, started working with a bunch of different people to create videos and stuff like that. Worked with a helicopter company where we get to fly around in helicopters and film them doing work and stuff. So it's pretty cool. And then 4 years ago, we decided to move to Utah.
Okay.
And because North Idaho, there's not a whole lot of people there. The
Yeah.
city we lived in, a population of 2,000. So you can imagine doing video work, which is usually a higher end paying job,
Yeah.
is kind of difficult in a smaller town like that. So we moved to Utah, tripled our income first month. So that was great. And dove even more into drones, got into FPV drones, stuff like that. And just like, just really started making online courses for it, teaching people. We've taught thousands of people around the world how to build and fly drones. And then 2 years ago, a local company posted that they needed a pilot for outdoor drone shows. And I had never seen a drone show. I had heard a lot about them and I loved it, but I knew there was no way I could ever get into it. Well, then this opportunity came up and I was like, great. So I applied right away, talked to them, and literally like we did the interview as I was driving to pick up dinner for the family. Like I'm on the
Oh, what a
phone doing the
hustle. That's
interview with them.
awesome.
And yeah, and we got done, and I told him all my experience and stuff, and I was like, so did I get the job? And he's like, dude, you're like the only person who actually has experience. You actually know what you're talking about and you can adapt to it because you've actually done it. Everyone else just like flew a Mavic that their grandma got them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, that's great. But like, yeah, I did have the years and years of experience, really diving into drones.
That's
And
great.
so
That's
I worked with them for a couple months. And as time went on, it became pretty obvious that it wasn't working. So I was basically running a good portion of their business, stuff as far as the technical side of it, and there were a lot of issues, a lot of yeah, to put it nicely, just a lot of issues, and
yeah.
it became pretty obvious it wasn't going to work out, and so they did kind of cut ties and like, okay, we're gonna move forward with somebody else, and I was like, okay, and so then from there I was like, you know what? I just got paid for 4 months to learn an industry that less than like 500 people in the world know about. Like, who else gets that opportunity? So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to jump into this myself. And so I looked into that and almost immediately decided, no, I'm not doing this. This is crazy. For those who don't know, which is probably everybody, you're looking at about a $500,000 investment to get started into
Oh,
outdoor drone
wow.
show
Okay.
companies. So I would have to raise a lot of money, which I had a lot of contacts that I could probably do that. But I just did not like that idea. That was just not sitting well with me. I don't like, I can take risks, but when it comes to a point where I'm not sure if I can fulfill that risk, that's where I'm like stepping back, and that comes to my family because I don't want to ever put them in a bad situation. So I kind of stepped back from that, and I started consulting people who wanted to get into the drone light show industry,
Okay.
and that worked really well. I helped a lot of people get started. Many of the companies here in the U.S. got started because of me, so that's kind of cool. And I formed a lot of really good partnerships, and I just took my time. I took my time. For the first time ever in my business life, like I just stepped back and was like, I am just going to observe and
Hmm.
see what does the industry need. And right then it needed me. It needed me to be there and help people get started because there's no information out there. You don't go on YouTube and find a whole guide on how to do this. Nobody's talking about it. And the people who are even promoting it, they keep everything really close to their chest. You
Yeah.
don't get anything until you've
I
paid.
really love that. I love the, it's almost like, it's home brewing, you're kind of, and almost pioneering kind of,
Mhm.
this new industry. And I want to backtrack, just a little bit too. Um, it, it sounds like so most of this I'm guessing you took this new job, starting to do this piloting. Was this post COVID?
No, this was after. So this was end of 2021.
Okay, so end of 2021. It's uh for a lot of people, this kind of new venture may seem a little daunting at first, but I think at least from hearing you talk, it really sounds like and kind of piggybacking on your faith a little bit, it
Mhm.
seems like God gave you this great opportunity to really position yourself to leverage all this experience that you've had, whether from that first $800 drone to now to really become
Mhm.
as you said, to kind of really hone in your craft, become a master. And I think one thing that really sticks out to me too is the fact that and what you said specifically was you took your time. You
Yeah.
you weren't. It doesn't seem like you really rushed it so much as you wanted to perfect it. And I think that there's a lot to be said about someone that is able to kind of slow things down, really make sure that they're hammering out the necessities of what they need to create to take it to this next level. Um, and it sounds like early in your career as well. You mentioned you were able to work with some celebrities. Are you able to touch a little bit more on that, or is there an NDA thing here, or are you allowed to name
uh,
drop a little bit at all?
for those ones, no. So, for more recent ones, yes, I can do some name dropping for recent ones. But yeah, back in the day, not as much for a
That's
few of
fine.
those. So,
That's fine. And
but yeah.
and to give the audience a little color, um, uh, when I first started following Jacob, it was really it was the Dude Perfect post. That's why I can't remember who shared it, but it came across my feed and I was like, no, I got to connect with this guy because I want to follow his progress and I want to. So can you kind of go into what that was like, from that initial you reaching out or them reaching out to kind of, you know, if anybody has been following Jacob, it's been really cool to watch. He posts videos and I'll put all of these resources in the show notes as well. He's got some really, really cool videos of these Dude Perfect shows. Like he was talking about the football inside, like it just I had a couple friends as well that have been to some of the shows, so they were actually able to see it firsthand, and it's really cool being able to look at it from an outside perspective, seeing where Jacob started and seeing where he's at now. So can you kind of shed a little color? What was that process like? And uh, maybe tell the audience a little bit, not just the business side of it, but did you learn anything personally from these interactions that kind of helped you grow not only in your craft but also just as an individual?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, so I like giving, the whole kind of backstory because there's so many times
I'm
people
here
just
for it.
give,
That's what this
yeah.
platform's for. Please dive right
Exactly.
in.
Yeah. So and part of that was like for that year, like taking my time and consulting other companies and helping them get started because I just started seeing what does the industry need.
Mhm.
But what I was doing at the same time is I was reaching out to a lot of companies going, "Hey, it'd be really cool to do a drone light show for you." But the issue was nobody's interested in just getting a pitch. So what
Yeah,
I started doing is there were some local companies. We got like Gab Wireless. So Nate Randall, the CEO of there, I had
very
connected with
familiar
him,
with
and I
Nate. Yep.
yeah, I took my time very slowly on LinkedIn, connecting to one person to connect to the other person they were connected to. I just took my time, slowly expanding my network, and so I got connected with Nate, and so I was like, okay, sweet, here it goes. So I made a video of a drone show flying about Gab Wireless and about his company. And I was like, I love Gab Wireless's, mission. When my kids need a phone, this is where I'm going for it. How cool would it be to see a drone show over Salt Lake City for them? And I tagged Nate, and I was like, "What do you think?" It went viral for me.
Uh,
He
I
reposted it. He commented on it, and he was like, "This is how you market people." He's like, "I get so many messages."
Exactly. And for anybody watching, that's I think that Jacob is the perfect case study on connecting, especially using LinkedIn. Um, it sometimes it takes a little creativity, but I think that a lot of people are trying to rush and try to grow their brand, but showing the dedication on it's just specifically the Gab Wireless thing. I think that just speaks volumes to who you are professionally, but also personally. You've taken the time to really, like you said, nobody wants a pitch. They want to actually
Yeah.
see this in action. What
Mhm.
a freaking better way to do it than the way you did. Like I'm blown away. I think that's awesome. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
Continue.
you're good.
Down your story.
No, you're good. So yeah, so I really realized like, whoa, this is the way to do it, and nobody else is doing because it takes time. It takes a lot of time to do a mock-up of a drone show. I mean, that is literally the most time-consuming part of designing a drone show is doing that part. So I was like, okay, I have to be really specific about this. I can't just do everybody I want to talk to. So I did one for Silicon Slopes. I did one for I even did one for like Elden Ring at the time because I really liked Elden Ring. So I did like a cool one for that.
Amazing.
So yeah, so I just did like a bunch of different things. I was like, I just want to get out there and get people really interested, and it worked because a lot of people are like, "This is so cool! I can't wait to see your next one," you know. And so then I was like, Dude Perfect. I've been a fan of Dude Perfect forever. I even applied to work as a video guy for them. It was funny when I talked to them about that. I talked to their editors, and I'm like, yeah, I actually applied to work with you guys. And they're like, really? and it was great. So yeah, so I was like, okay, I need to find out who should I connect to in LinkedIn, because connecting to Dude Perfect, connecting to the 5 guys, that's gonna get me nowhere. That's gonna get me absolutely nowhere. I need to talk to someone who can get me there. And so I happen to be Second Connections, once again, slowly growing my LinkedIn connections with some of their business managers. And so as soon as like literally I was waiting for him to accept my message, and I've told him this too, he finds it funny. And he accepted it. And I was sitting right here. I ran upstairs. I told my wife, we need to work on the Dude Perfect show right now because he just accepted it. I need to tag him like tomorrow in a post.
Oh man.
So she actually went through and we designed a drone light show with all the guys' faces. And then we did the Pound It Noggin See Ya. We did the Dude Perfect logo. And we just did this huge outdoor drone show simulation. I put it to some catchy music that I'm pretty sure has been on a Dude Perfect video. Posted it and was like, I love Dude Perfect. How cool would it be to see your guys' face in the sky? And then I tagged the guys and I was like, what do you guys think? Immediately, both of them commented. Like immediately, and they were like, "We need to talk."
And this
was like
being an audience member. I followed that whole interaction on LinkedIn, and I couldn't have been more happy for you. Like, obviously, my excitement is nowhere near what I can't even imagine that run up the stairs. I would have tripped over my foot every single step. But the excitement that I had for you, man, it's so great to see someone win, especially when they're winning through really just showcasing their passion, dude. It's very admirable of you.
Thank you. Yeah. And so yeah, from there, what's funny is like from there I was like, okay, I need to just, obviously do this the right way and kind of pursue it the right way. It took months. It took months to get our first meeting. That what I just told you, like he responded, I think it was in August. We didn't have our first meeting till end of December.
Okay.
So like it was again patience, just waiting. They had logged me in. It was good to go. But like I had to wait until the timing was right. Well, then come end of December, it was like a few days before Christmas, I think, of all times. I was like, okay, they're definitely busy now. I get an email from them and like, we need to talk. And we want to do a drone light show for our tour. And so immediately I'm like, 2 things. It's now their idea. And once something you're pitching has become the client's idea, it's completely changed. And so I told my wife right away, I'm like, it's it, we got it. And she's like, how do you know? And I'm like, it's their idea now. It's their idea. And that's gonna help a lot. And yeah, so then we had our first meeting and they were like, we need to do it indoor. And I'm like, indoor? Wow. Okay, this is different. And so basically from there, we created the indoor industry so that we could do Dude Perfect.
Awesome.
That's like the craziest part of the story that has been a little bit like touch and go, because obviously you want to be careful about that kind of thing. When you're like creating something for that kind of job. But we, obviously we talked to them about that. Like we've never done this on this kind of a scale. Indoor systems are usually meant for, like literally the system we used originally was meant for educational purposes. And we created it to be a commercial thing. So like it was just crazy. And so like those next how many months were just absolute, like just craziness, getting everything done. And like what we ended up doing in Dude Perfect on tour literally wasn't even possible when I first contacted them. Because when I first contacted them, it was about outdoor shows.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about indoor for their tour. and everything
That
changed.
just blows my mind. What, dude? What a perfect way to not only did you land this just astronomically awesome job, but you got to simultaneously create basically an entire new industry
Yep.
for drone light shows. Like that just has to personally, I would just be so I would feel so accomplished, and and I feel like you should, because that is, not only did you have the daunting task of creating this, brand new type of show, but you're
Mhm.
basically kind of setting up the guidelines of how this should be done going forward, not just for
Yeah.
you, but for really everybody. So going into this tour, you guys have started the tour. What did a typical tour night look like for you?
Yeah. So yeah, so that was fun. My wife and I did it. So it was her and I on a bus for 6 weeks. And we were on the bus team and everything. It was great. We had the fun bus. Not to discount any of the other buses and people. Sorry guys, but we had Panda on our bus. We had the DJ on our bus.
Hmm,
And so it was the party bus. Now I will tell you, my wife and I have kids. We're old essentially, so we went to bed before most of the bus party happened. Um,
that would have been me.
yeah, so we were kind of like we waited for everyone. We're like, okay, we're gonna head to bed. But anyway, so every day basically would start with us getting up. Actually, usually just me. I'd get
Okay.
up at like as soon as we got to the venue. And then I would go in and I would do a site test. So I would set up everything because we were at a different location every day.
Yeah.
Normally, when we do these shows, we do a site test at every location beforehand. Well, we couldn't do that in this case because it's 24 locations. It would have taken an entire month. And not to mention like probably 30 or 40 grand to do
Daunting,
all of it.
man.
So we would basically do a site test every morning and just make sure that the drones were connecting. If there were any issues, we could adjust those. And then from there, from like 7 or 8 a.m. until about 2:30, there was a lot of just like kind of waiting for things to be done, because we had to load in every day. So like the stage was being set up every day, the LED walls, everything. So we had to wait until a lot of that was set up to do our first test, or sorry, our second test, for the day. But during that time, we would get our drones out, we'd set them up. We basically had two huge plywood boards that had 30 drones on each of them, and
Oh,
then we would roll those out to either side of the stage, lift them up, slide them onto the stage, and then we would place all the drones on the stage in under 2 minutes and be ready to take off. Which is another thing that, like, literally people still don't believe me to this day that we did that, because, like, in the outdoor drone show industry, you're looking at potentially hours to set up, and we
okay.
would set up in under 2 minutes. So, like, people literally didn't believe me until I sent them a video of it.
That is
So,
just crazy.
um, yeah.
And Jacob sent me some footage as well, so I will include that at the end of this podcast, and there will definitely be links to pretty much most of his work in the show notes.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so like from there, we'd have to obviously measure things out on stage. So we'd set like little stickers on the stage to mark where drones were gonna be. And then we would sometimes we'd fly a test. We changed things in the show a lot,
Okay.
especially like I don't know if you saw the video. I'll send you this one for sure. I don't know if I sent it to you before. For the nights, Mark Rober was there, the
Okay.
YouTuber, and so he and I devised a plan because Mark loves pranks, and I'm
I
a
did
big
see the
fan of
prank
Mark.
video. Love it.
So yeah, so we basically, I was like, I saw him sitting down, and I was like, I looked at my wife and I said, "This is my opportunity." I pulled out the software that we had developed for this purpose to be able to quickly make designs to show people. I pulled up his Crunch Labs logo. I made a drone show for it, a simulation for it, and I walked up to him and I was like, "Mark, I got an idea." And we had talked for like 3 seconds before this. He basically was like, "Drone guy," and I'm like, "Drone guy," and he's like, "Cool, this is awesome, can't wait." Like that was it. And so I just sat next to him. I'm like, I got to show you something. What if we did this? What if you hacked the drones and you act like you formed them into your own logo? And he loved the idea. We cleared it with production, but nobody else knew. It was a complete prank. And when it went off, it was great. The crowd loved it and everything. But that often involved then when we would change things, we'd have to do like an extra rehearsal to
Okay.
make sure it was good. And in that case, it was fun because we'd have to be like, okay, nobody's here that can't know about this, and we had to like keep it all secretive and stuff. So it was a lot of fun. But for the most part, it was kind of like do our site test in the morning. wait for, several hours, and just get like things ready. We do a lot of calibration, just get things ready for the next day, stuff like that. And then basically, whenever it was about time to go, um, I was just sitting there in the background, like almost as jittery as the guys, just like, okay, here we go. This is it. And basically, as soon as that music started for the show, we would turn on all the drones, we'd get them ready and backstage, and then we'd wheel them to either side of the stages. And then we would wait there because they actually did their first battle. So they'd be throwing basketballs and footballs. And like we would have to protect them from the drones as they were throwing them and stuff. And then literally as soon as they finished that, we had to jump up there on stage, unload the drones, get them all ready, calibrated, and ready to go. So that when they did their cool, not cool segment, we were able to take off on time. And then as soon as they landed, we ran up there, we took them off as quick as we could. And then we got ready for intermission where we'd fly the second show. And then at that time, we'd fly that show, we'd pack up, and usually we were packed up and ready to leave by about 3/4 of the show before it was done. And then we'd get to watch the rest of the show, and then we'd head back to the bus. So that was kind of like our daily schedule, and we did that for 6 weeks.
What a ride! The planning that has to take, and especially having to go from what's typically outdoor a couple hours of setup, basically taking that down to minutes.
Mhm.
Time is of the essence for you. So it's very cool to hear, how you've taken your entire career from that first $800 drone to
Mhm.
what you're doing now. Uh, Jacob can't talk about it, but he did make a post about how he's also sending in a some footage to hopefully be on AGT. I'm not going to ask him about that. I understand the code of secrecy for that. But is there anything on the horizon that you can talk to? Any new projects coming up that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, we're actually leaving for Brazil in 2 days. So I'm heading to Brazil, and this will be one of our biggest drone show performances as far as numbers. So we're
Okay.
doing 100 drones, and it's crazy because the complexities of the venue are like literally mind blowing. At first, I was just like, "Can we even make this happen?" And once again, like pretty much every time we get a client request, it's like, "Oh, we got to do something new to make this work,"
Yeah.
and every time we pull it off.
Keep it
So it's
fresh and
yeah, yep, and it's there's always something new that we have to work with and kind of figure out, and so that's what I'm really excited about. We're also heading to Texas for a week to do some shows there, a Christmas show. That one I'm also looking forward to because the whole family gets to go because it's a Christmas show at a church, so like the kids get to come and be a part of it, and my wife will be there, and so it's just gonna be a family trip, so that'll be fun. And then we are also possibly, this one's still in the air a little bit, but heading to South Africa the
okay.
week before Christmas. So, and that's an outdoor show.
Man,
So December is like just packed.
you are going to be so busy. What a journey, man. It's been truly just it's been really enlightening hearing about your journey, and it's really cool also to hear about your wife being right there with you. It's
Yeah,
what a great experience that you both get to share together now for
yeah.
forever, and the fact that you guys get to go on all of these really cool trips. Uh, Thank you so much, Jacob, for being on. It's been an absolute pleasure being able to talk with you and hear more about your experiences. I definitely want you on for maybe another a part two because I had a few other things that I wanted to ask, but
There's a
so
lot. There's a lot to talk about.
there is, and just hearing about this stuff just gets my mind just going.
Oh yeah.
I just think it's so cool, being a guy in tech myself. Now I'm not in the tech space that you are, but just hearing about the intricacies of it and knowing all the things that could go wrong and hearing how you've really just mastered all of that. It's
Yeah.
been really, really cool to hear. So thank you so much, Jacob, for sharing that with me and with the audience. Uh, where can everybody find you?
Yeah. So illuminatedrones.com is our website. You can also find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
That's one of the most active social medias I'm actually on that I care about.
Okay.
The other ones are kind of just getting posts out there because I need to. But
Understand.
LinkedIn, I like kind of interacting with people there and stuff. And yeah, so LinkedIn at Jacob Howard. There's plenty of Jacob Howards out there, but
And
you,
I'll put
you
all of
should be
these in
able
the
to
show
find me.
notes as well.
Yeah. So yeah, illuminatedrones.com or Jacob Howard on LinkedIn.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks
Awesome.
again for coming. I'm glad that you you took up my invite to come join the show. I couldn't have thought of a better interviewee, man. This was a true a blessing and a pleasure to have you on, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Travis. I was glad to be
Thank you,
here.
sir. You have a great day.
You too.